Well, folks, there is a very, very realistic chance that J.D. Vance, the current vice president, and current governor of California, Gavin Newsom, will be facing off against each other in the 2028 presidential election. Now, with Newsom, he is one of the few candidates that the Democrats may actually have a shot with. It's safe to say that their bench is very, very thin going into 2028 right now. But let's dive into this. But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, make sure you never miss another video from us in the future. Now, Vance's prospects of being the next GOP nominee have gotten better and better since basically summer of 2024. And as of right now, J.D. Vance is leading in almost every single poll to lead the Republican Party in the 2028 primary. Now, unless something happens, we just kind of have to wait and see at this point. That's the reality. He's done a lot of good things. I'd say so far he has risen to almost every occasion that he's been called to as vice president or as the vice presidential nominee. He has risen to that occasion. As long as he continues to do that, I don't think there's any problem that he should have leading this ticket. Now, obviously, there's going to be a battle in 2028. Other names will most likely jump in. I definitely expect Ron DeSantis to jump in. I don't expect Vivek to jump in, but probably Nikki Haley to jump in. There's a number of names you can throw out there, but right now this is Vance's race to lose. And as of right now, I would expect that he will be the next GOP nominee. And since, like we said, Vance was selected as the number 2 on the ticket with President Trump, he has rose to almost every occasion. From his debate performance against Tim Walz to his ability to being able to competently dissect some of the most complicated issues that our country faces and have a serious conversation about it, while fiercely defending the Trump brand across the country. It's like he is one of Trump's most fierce defenders. He is out there promoting the America First way forward in the United States, and he has not let us down yet. There is absolutely zero doubt about that right now. And Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, like we said, current governor of California, he'll be term limited in 2026. 2 years from now, he has a very, very strong national presence, and it's very well liked among Democrat primary voters. And I'm going to emphasize that. Very, very well liked among Democrat primary voters. Many people look to him as the future of the Democrat Party in America. And although I believe he would do well in a Democrat primary, I think in a general election, it would be much, much tougher for Gavin Newsom in that election. Here's a map of what we're looking at. Most likely, we're going to be looking most likely at the same swing states. Some people want to say that maybe Texas could be in play, Florida could be in play, Ohio could be in play. We saw what happened in the most recent election. Texas became more Republican. It's like that. Some of the biggest shifts we saw were in Texas, in Florida, in Ohio, shifting to the right towards President Trump, away from the Democrats, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. But like I said, I think it's going to be very tough for him in a general election against J.D. Vance for Newsom. He is seen by many, especially in the swing states, the Rust Belt states, as this West Coast Hollywood elitist who is completely out of touch with the average American. This could easily hurt him in the Rust Belt, in the swing states here, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I think it'll probably hurt him less in Nevada and Arizona, even though I think there is a strong case to be made that in those states, you have so many people fleeing California that are going to Nevada, that are going to Arizona, that both of those states are becoming more Republican, more red than they were in the past. These are the people who escaped California, so most likely they're going to feel that, they're going to do anything they can to make sure their states and America does not turn into California. It's like, it really just is as simple as that. And for Newsom, he's going to struggle with, you want to talk about your moderate, low propensity, the voters how did Trump win this last election? He won it by driving up turnout. He drove it up with low propensity voters who agree with President Trump, who support President Trump. They're not Republicans, but they're more maybe America first. They're populist. And he was able to meet them where they're at and drive them out. He was able to get major support among young voters. It's like you look at the Democrat Party, and especially, Tim Walz. Who the hell do the Democrats think that they're going to attract to their party by putting Tim Walz as the number 2 on the ticket? Obviously there are some people, but the majority of kids, young men under 35, do not look to Tim Walz as this masculine, manly figure that you're looking up to. He's that weird socialist uncle who people are kind of just weirded out by. It's like if we're just being 100% honest. But back to the actual electoral map. In a place that J.D. Vance may have a very good advantage on is those Rust Belt states. He's from Ohio. That's where he kind of has that Midwestern folksy vibe to him. But he also has that down-to-business, well-spoken, very polished sense to him. It's kind of this weird thing that he can play both sides of it. But regardless, Newsom has been acting like he is gearing up for a presidential run, starting by moving more to the middle on some of these issues that make Democrats very unpopular. You want to start off by talking with some of these trans issues. Take a listen here. We're going to talk about this afterwards, but just take a listen to him. Had a podcast with Charlie Kirk. Let's take a listen.
So you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, right. that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate
but would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
So
he goes on to say that it is deeply unfair that there are transgender individuals who are competing in women's sports, who are winning, they're breaking records by marks that we've never seen before. It's like there was some sort of long race that was held, and there was a transgender man who beat the record by like 5 or 6 hours in this race. It's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing, but don't let him fool you. He may say it's unfair, he thinks it's not fair, but let's look at the facts. The fact is that Gavin Newsom passed laws to strip parents of their rights. He prohibited schools from, notifying parents of their child if they transitioned in school, if they socially transitioned during school. He goes on in this same podcast to say that, no, the law just says that the school district can't discipline parents or can't discipline educators if they decide that they don't want to tell parents that their child has transitioned in the school, which is ridiculous. It should be mandatory that if a teacher, outside of abuse and horrific things like that, outside of that, but a teacher should be required to tell parents if their child has transitioned in school. It is just as simple as that. This teacher is not their parent. They're not. Parents have rights over their kids. Parents have an absolute right to know what is going on with their child. Gavin Newsom passed some of the strictest laws that allow students in public schools to use facilities that align with their gender identity. It prevented school districts from banning or barring men who dress as women or identify as women from using female bathrooms, which is absolutely ridiculous. And that includes sports teams and locker rooms. You have a young 17-year-old mentally ill man who now all of a sudden is a female and now wants to go into the bathrooms of the women. How is that okay? And made it that school districts could not stop schools from enforcing that men go to men's bathrooms, women's go to women's bathrooms, which is just 100% ridiculous. Do not let him fool you. Gavin Newsom's trying to move to the middle. He started this new podcast called, who even cares what it's called? Started this new podcast. He's trying to talk with conservative influencers. He's trying to make it seem like he's more conservative. It's all a bunch of bullshit. That's what it is. It's bullshit. Gavin Newsom passed some of the most horrific transgender laws that violate parental rights, that violate young women. The strictest laws we have in our nation, he passed during his administration while running California. He may say biological men playing in women's sports is deeply unfair, but here's the reality. The reality is, don't look at what he says, look at what he does. We ask you to do the same thing with President Trump. Look at what he does, not what he says. Look at Gavin Newsom, what he actually did. Look at the laws that he passed that deeply hurt California, that strip parental rights away, and that basically makes it okay. We're gonna coddle this mental illness, gender dysphoria. We're gonna coddle this right here. But enough of that. Let's look at what the polling is right now for Gavin Newsom in this race here. So obviously Kamala Harris has been leading. There's no doubt about it. She's the front runner as of right now. But we're a long ways out. People liked Kamala Harris in the Democrat Party. There's at least a chunk of them who do. Gavin Newsom has a very, very good chance of leading the Democrat Party forward in 2028. Now, like we said, current polling shows that 2028 looks more like a Vance-Harris matchup, is more likely. But I wouldn't take anything too seriously at this point. I wouldn't take any single poll too seriously. Let Gavin jump in the race, get through a couple primaries, campaign for a year, and then let's talk. But like I said, the reality is that the Democrats are very, very limited on who they have. It is a very, very thin bench that you're looking at. It's like if you're looking at the top here, Kamala Harris, number 1, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Tim Walz, Josh Shapiro. Like, that's who they have. Okay, AOC, zero chance she will ever win a Democrat. She will never be the nominee for president. Take it to the bank. Elizabeth Warren, no chance it's happening. Gretchen Whitmer, no chance it's happening. Well, who do we have to lead the Democrats forward? You have Kamala, choo-choo train Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, and Tampon Tim. That's who you've got, basically. Because I'd be scared. If I were a Democrat, they talk about these other Democrats. Andy Beshear would be a much, much better option. Roy Cooper would be a much better option for the Democrats. Josh Shapiro would be a much better option. But no. Who are the Democrats looking at? They're looking at the DEI hire Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg. They're looking at Gavin Newsom. They're looking in all the wrong places. And great, continue. Keep looking in the wrong places. We'll see you in the 2028 race. That's really all I've got to say. Because they have a super thin bench, and if I were one of these more moderate Democrats, I don't know if I'd want to run in a primary. If you're Josh Shapiro and you have a quarter of the Democrat Party who is deeply anti-Semitic, deeply anti-Israel, deeply pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine, it's like, how could you even look as a Jewish person? How could you look at jumping in this race here when you know that a fourth of your party wants to obliterate the state of Israel? And would be totally okay with it. And they would sleep better at night if the state of Israel, because guess what? They don't want a two-state solution. They want Hamas to obliterate Israel and it to become all Palestine. That's the reality of the Democrat Party right now. But let's look, what are the factors that are going to play into who is going to be the next president? Really, the biggest thing that's going to play into who is the next president. Can President Trump follow through on his promises to lower costs and get inflation under control? President Trump was elected for many different things, but by far, he was elected to lower cost and get inflation under control. And I think we should give him time. We're looking at the reconciliation bill they're trying to get through Congress right now. That could be a big one. Further extending the Trump tax cuts from 2017, making some of them permanent, unleashing energy independence. But then you also look on the flip side. Trump is using tariffs as leverage to get Canada and Mexico to do what he wants. He wants to get immigration, illegal immigration, and fentanyl under control that's coming in from Canada and from Mexico. That's the reality of the situation. There could be some short-term implications with tariffs. Tariffs as an economic tool are terrible. As a tool of leverage, it can be great. Trump can get what he wants from it. But at what cost? But ultimately, you need to do the right things regardless of how politically good it's going to be for you or not. You need to do the right things. It doesn't matter if you're going to get obliterated in the next election. Obviously, we need to do things that are going to help us win more elections. But if there's something that needs to be done, you need to take the hit for it. We're looking at the economy. Can jobs continue to grow? We look at the first jobs report that under President Trump's watch. During Biden's administration, we saw about a third of the job growth that was created was in the public sector. About 2/3 was in the private sector. In the first month of Trump's first jobs report, we're seeing that less than 10% of jobs created are in the public sector, 90% are in the private sector. How is the economy going to look? Obviously, the stock market is a big piece of it, but the stock market is not the economy. The stock market is a voting machine on how people's sentiment feels about the future. It's as simple as that. And a lot of it is They're computers making these trades here. What does the economy look like? How are people feeling? How tight? How are people's anxieties related to their pocketbooks looking? And then immigration. Is Trump able to get immigration under control? We see that border crossings have dropped like 95% since President Trump became president. We've seen that fentanyl it's like the amount of fentanyl that's been seized at the southern border has dropped like 70% or 60% since President Trump has become the president. And then you look at foreign policy, the victories and losses. What's going to happen with Ukraine? What's going to happen with the Middle East with Israel and Hamas? What's going to happen with Iran? There's some new things that we're kind of getting out of Iran where maybe Trump is looking to make a deal with them. Kind of go back to the Iran nuclear deal, which wasn't a great deal. We gave them all this cash, but if there can be some sort of deal where they are not developing nuclear weapons, that's ultimately, I'm not a big fan of it, but that's something President Trump has now talked about. I think sanctions and economic pressure on them is the way to move forward. These are thugs who will kill Americans. They want to destroy America. We do not want to do business with these people. Russia, China, I get it. But Iran, let's see, what is the GDP? Let's see, GDP Iran. Oh my God. They're like, not even a $500 billion. Like, that's like actually kind of sad, if we're being 100% honest. But they are, 2% of the size of the American economy? We could crush them. We could absolutely crush them. Put economic pressures on other countries that do business with them. I don't think making a deal with Iran is the best thing. I think economic pressures is the way. We're going to see what happens going forward. But it's going to depend. What do our foreign policy victories and losses look like? Obviously, we know during President Biden's term, he had, 55, 56% approval rating until the summer of 21 when the Afghanistan withdrawal fallout happened. And basically, his approval rating tanked, didn't really ever recover from that. Americans don't like to be involved in issues around the world, but then when we start losing in conflicts around the world, they don't like that even more. They don't want to be involved in issues, but if they are involved, they want to make sure we win. We don't want to look weak. We don't want to lose. So is Trump able to end the Ukraine-Russia war? What is Trump able to do in Gaza? That's going to be a big thing. He's thrown a lot of different ideas out there. We're going to see. The foreign policy victories and losses is going to play into it. But ultimately, it's going to be prices, the economy, immigration, foreign policy. These are the top ones in that order. I'd put a lot of weight on the top two, looking at the economy, looking at inflation, looking at lower end costs. So as of today, where do I stand on this race? I think that this race is going to be a J.D. Vance win, just slightly. I don't think it's going to be a blowout popular vote-wise. I could see it a point and a half, 2 points. I don't think we're going to see a 3, 4, 5, 6% popular vote win for J.D. Vance. As of today, I would say that Nevada, you're probably looking at Nevada, I'm going to say probably by like 3 to 5 points, J.D. Vance wins Nevada, 3 to 5 points in Arizona. I think in Georgia, J.D. Vance expands on Trump's margin of about 2.5 points from 2024 and really opens it up and makes it more of a safe red state in 2028. North Carolina, same thing. I think this becomes more red. Now, here's where things might change a little bit. I think that Wisconsin could go to Newsom. Wisconsin was the closest battleground state. Trump only won it by about 20,000 votes. I could see that state going to Newsom. They're kind of weird like that. But J.D. Vance, I see Pennsylvania. You want to look at voter registration. In 2016, the Democrats had almost a million voter registration advantage over the Republicans. The Democrats had a million voter registration advantage over the Republicans. Now, in 2025, that margin has shrunk from 1 million to about less than 100,000 now, which is absolutely insane. They had like one when Obama won back in 2008, they had like 1.1, 1.2 million as far as their advantage over the Republicans. Now, less than 100,000. President Trump won this election. Let's see. President Trump won by 180,000 votes, I think, in Pennsylvania, 120,000, and in Michigan he won by 80,000. Wisconsin only won by about 30,000. He won by 46. And almost 200,000 in Arizona. Wow. Wow. But this is where it would stand as of today. If you're asking me how do I think the election would go as of today, and I guess on the Democrat side, I would, I meant New Hampshire's probably going to be a little closer. Vermont, obviously, safe seat. Is there anything else in here? That's probably where I'm going to leave it for right now. I think Vance wins 302, Newsom 236. This is where I think, as of, we're 4 years out from this election, a lot can change between now and election day. Much of this is going to depend on how President Trump performs over the next 4 years. And so far, I would say he is off to a great start. So that's going to wrap things up for today, folks. Drop down below, hit that subscribe button so you make sure you never miss another video from us in the future. We'll catch you next time.